Danielle Sith needs to resign yesterday. I do not normally frequent Breitbart's podcast. Shocking, I know. One of my followers, however, recently tagged me in a comment on someone's video where they claimed that this was leaked audio because it's 2025 and nobody knows what words mean. Turns out this was not leaked, this was part of a podcast. And I am not a lawyer, nor am I a Mountie. But if this shit is legal, we need better laws. And if this is legal, that is only because nobody ever thought we'd elect a premier dumb enough to plot with our enemies to undermine not just Canadian democracy, but our very status as a sovereign nation. This is from a March 8th podcast. This is her responding to a question about whether or not she thinks Trudeau is handling negotiations with Trump well.
Well, I can tell you, I think we got into a ditch with the very first meeting in Mar-a-Lago. I've seen the president reference many times since then the exchange two blunders. One was on the issue of NATO. We know the American president expects for all of the trade partners to reach their 2% NATO commitment, and Canada still hasn't committed to doing that until 2032. So I think that was one problem. And then, as he's conveyed, he said that tariffs would result in Canada collapsing, and I think that was the wrong message to convey because it made us sound very, very weak. I mean, we are definitely dependent on U.S. trade. We probably have more. We certainly have more dependence on U.S. trade than in any other market, but it's mutually beneficial. And I wish that we'd been able to convey earlier on just how much the Americans benefit from being able to buy cheap and discounted raw materials and intermediate products, so they can do the value added to create American jobs and also keep prices lower for consumers. That's the partnership that we have, and Canada, in exchange, also becomes the principal buyer of American produced products. We're your biggest customer. So I think that we started off on the wrong foot, and now we've been trying to get that information out because we really should maintain this tariff-free relationship between our two countries. Our industries are so integrated, and it's good for both partners.
So, first of all, who the hell cares how much of our GDP we're spending on NATO? Up until just recently, the world was only at war, largely when America decided to start wars. We've been dealing with a whole lot of economic problems, often caused by American business boys in our country doing shenanigans, like how they bribed Dan Mall to destroy our socialized healthcare system. The way that she makes excuses for Trump's behavior and justifies it as if, well, Trump gave us homework and we didn't do it, so it's okay if he wants to try and plunge working Canadians into poverty and kill us by proxy. Like, how demented do you have to be the one making excuses for an old senile bastard from another country going out of his way to kill your people? Smith is not a whole person. She is not safe for Canadian society roaming free, inserting herself into these negotiations that she's neither qualified for, nor is she expected to as a provincial official. She should not be involved in trade negotiations, which are a federal responsibility. I'm going to skip a little forward in the show, but you'll notice that first clip very long because I am making sure to leave in the context. I do not want right-wing people going, actually, if you listen to the whole context, like I am giving you ample context.
Before the tariff war, I would say yes. I mean, Pierre Poilievre is the name of the Conservative Party leader, and he was miles ahead of Justin Trudeau. But because of what we see as unjust and unfair tariffs, it's actually caused an increase in the support for the Liberals. And so that's what I fear, is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause, is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election. Let's have the best person at the table make the argument for how they would deal with it. And I think that's Pierre Poilievre. And I do agree with you that if we do have Pierre as our prime minister, then I think that there's a number of things that we could do together. Pierre believes in development. He believes in low-cost energy. He believes that we need to have low taxes. Doesn't believe in any of the woke stuff that we've seen taking over our politics for the last 5 years. So I would think that there's probably still always going to be areas that are skirmishes or disputes about particular industries when it comes to the border. But I would say, on balance, the perspective that Pierre would bring would be very much in sync with, I think, where the new direction in America. And I think we'd have a really great relationship for the period of time they're both in.
So this is after the interviewer asks her about Trump's moronic statements about Trudeau trying to stay in power, despite the fact that he'd literally announced that he was stepping down and all that stuff. But if you notice in here, Smith says that she tried to convince the Trump administration, not Canadian officials, the Trump administration to pause the tariffs temporarily. She wasn't saying they're a bad idea. She wasn't saying you shouldn't try and kill my citizens. She was saying just don't do it until we can elect the guy who is more willing to lick your boots. She only says that they should be temporarily stopped. They should only temporarily stop actively attacking Canada until her guy, Pierre, who would be willing to sell us out to the Fourth Reich, is in charge. How arrogant and deluded do you have to be to try and advise a hostile nation's mentally ill leader on how best to manipulate your nation's political landscape so that Canada would be in a weaker position to negotiate with him in the future? It boggles the mind. Danielle has drunk her own party's anti-gay, anti-trans, anti-indigenous Kool-Aid so completely that she'd sooner see Pierre in power to bow down to Trump and make Canada into an American territory than she would to allow our elections to proceed without interference and support whoever Canadians decide we want to lead us. This is completely disgraceful. As you've heard, I put her full comments in the relevant clips. There, you can feel free to go and check out the podcast. I didn't manipulate things or make them sound like she said things that she didn't say. This is what she said, and Alberta and the rest of Canada should be furious with her. And I really hope that there's something that the RCMP or CSIS can use to go after her for this.